Hello everyone, welcome to this project, and we are going to texture SnipeGun here, but it's not the main point for this project. For this project, the main point is how to deal with big and complex model inside Substance Painter. So the workflow that we choose here for texturing this gun is exactly the same for if you want to texture a tank or a car inside Substance Painter. And the main point is how to manage baking process without facing with a lot of issue or a lot of unwanted result, okay? And how to manage a 3D viewport in a professional way. Because we did this kind of stuff before version 9 of Substance Painter, and we did all things manually, okay? So the main idea is improve the workflow that we have inside air conditioner, okay? Inside air conditioner, we use explode bake technique for having clean bake, right? So in here, inside this project, I'm going to show you a better workflow for this. It's so much easier and the result is so clean and it's so professional. Okay? And for managing the whole model, the big model, the complex model inside Substance Painter via geometry mask, it's so easy. So let's go for that. We are going to talk about all this stuff inside Substance Painter, don't worry. And now I'm going to tell you about the new technique, the new workflow that we choose for baking process. So what is the most common problem when we want to bake a big shape or big model with a lot of different pieces, with a lot of pieces that they have intersection together, okay, or common area together, or they are near to each other. So for example, when we are going to bake this model, okay, we have some ambient occlusion effect from this part of the model in here, okay? Or when we are going to bake, we have a very dark area here. So these are unwanted effect when we want to have a clean bake, okay? If we need this dark area here, we did as we did before, okay? But what if we don't want it? We need to use explode baking, right? As we discussed before. But in here, we are going to learn a new method, an improved method, or improved version of explode baking. So in explode baking that we discussed in air conditioner, the main concept was separating model in 3D space, okay, for example, like this, and we matched the high poly version and the low poly version in new area, okay, that's it. And we have one version of the model and we use it after baking process. So in this way, we have clean bake. We don't have baking effect on the object near to each other and this kind of matters. So after baking, we have a clean bake and we load the new model, right? So this is the old technique. And what about the new technique that we are going to learn? The new technique is SameMeshName. Okay, it's like we are talking to software. We are talking to Substance Painter. Okay, we have this scope, right? And we want to have scope doesn't receive any effect from other part. So please bake it separately. Okay, so this is how we are going to talk. This is our conversation. Separate object with name, and we tell, okay, we have this part and we have body, okay, and we have wood, for example, and we want to have clean bake. There is no effect on each other. Please bake them separately. And I don't want to see the effect from the other object inside ambient occlusion baking. So how we are going to do that? With naming, okay? So this is the low poly version, and absolutely we have a high poly version of that. So this is the scope. And we tell Substance Painter we have a scope low, we have a scope high. And for the baking, please transfer all the data from high to low. So we define the low poly and the high poly at the end with suffix. Okay, so this is the way that we are going to tell Substance Painter to bake curvature, thickness, ambient occlusion, bend normal, to use these kind of workflow. Okay, so, and when you have wood, you need to have wood low and you need to have wood high. And in this way, Substance Painter understand, okay, I'm going to transfer all the data from wood high to wood low. And that's it. We have clean bake. We have clean result. And with this technique, we can mask each low part inside Substance Painter with geometry mask. So it's enough for having this conversation in conceptual part. We need to see this in action, and we know about how to prepare model for Substance Painter. We know how to keep the same size for UV island across UDIMs, because we are going to use UDIMs again in here. And the main point here is to have this category. Okay, so this is the wood piece, right? And if you see, the name is wood underline pieces underline low. Okay, and the second one is scope underline low, and these are the low poly part, right? So what about the high poly? So I'm going to show you the high poly version. Okay, this is the wood high poly. Okay, and this is the low high poly. So they are in the same position. They have coverage. Okay, so the first step for preparing model for baking. Okay, let me show you. Yeah. Okay, and for SameMeshName technique, we need to follow this rule. So if we have this naming inside our 3D model, we need to have exactly the same name at the first. And after that, we need to define suffix for define which is high poly and which is low poly. Okay, and it's not mandatory to have underline low or underline high. We can have, for example, underline X for the low poly part. We can have underline Y for the high poly. We define that for Substance Painter. I'm going to show you, okay? But what about the first part? You can have any format that you want, that you like for the naming, okay? It doesn't matter. The only point that you need to consider and follow that is when you have, for example, bpot here, you need to have exactly the same format, the same name in here for the high poly version. Okay, so it doesn't matter. We have a name, underline another name, and underline low. Or we have text number, or we just have simple text. Okay, it doesn't matter. The only thing that's matter is we need to have the same name for the high poly version and the low poly version. And the next point is we need to follow one rule. When you define the x, it's equal to low for Substance Painter, you need to follow this x at the end as a suffix for all your items. Okay, so you need to, for example, rename this to L, capital L, and it's equal to low. Okay, so it's okay. We can do that. We can have this. But it's not like, okay, half of them has L for the low, and the other half have, for example, low for the low. It's not okay. So these 2 points, these 2 rules, they are important and we need to follow them. And in newest version of Substance Painter, I mean the 9 version, we have bake room and we have a window for checking this. So don't worry. Before that, we try to bake. We face so many errors on the log and we found out we messed up with the name. But in here, when you rename, when you follow the rules in Substance Painter, you can check that before baking. So it's awesome. Okay, let's go and export the low poly model as fx, and we export the high poly version as obj. Okay, so the main point here, we don't need any data for the high poly version, for example, UV or other matters. So we are going to export that in OBJ format. It's not mandatory. It's just my suggestion to you. And that's it. And for rendering part, we have Marmoset version. Okay, it's a single model with 3 different material ID because we have 3 UDIMs. Okay, so let's go to Substance Painter and start our process.